All right. Hello. Good morning. Good afternoon, everybody, wherever you are located, listening in from. Really appreciate you tuning in to U.S. Rugby Happy Hour Live. We have another daytime show for you. Joining us in a few minutes will be interim USA women's head coach Milton Haig and USA captain Kate Zackary will be joining us as well, and together. So if you have not already followed us, please do so at Eagles Overseas and Rugby Morning to get updates on future shows and news about USA Rugby, Major League Rugby, and much more. I am Bill Baker of Eagles Overseas, and my co-host is Rugby Morning's John Fitzpatrick. Welcome back, Fitzy.
Hey, Bill, good morning. I'm on third cup of coffee, so I'm wired and ready to go.
Nice. I need myself a shot of espresso here, but too late. I'm starting to dig these daytime shows, but we'll have to change our name to like U.S. Rugby Brunch Time Live or something.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, it's good. I'm alive. I'm awake. You're probably going to be wicked chattery with your with the caffeine in your system, but, which is a good time
Yes.
for you. Yeah, it's a good time for you to be all hyped up because it's just overwhelming right now for rugby fans, especially this week. You know what I mean? With the Rugby World Cup, we got Uruguay and Namibia later this morning's playing. Fiji Invitational kicks off later today with USA Sevens playing Australia Green, Australia Gold, so two matches. What are you looking forward to watching this week?
All of it,
I know.
if I can.
Who needs day jobs?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm actually pumped for Saturday. I want to see Argentina, Chile, and then Fiji, Georgia. And I'm not just mentioning that game because of one of our guests today. But out of all of them, I mean, last week were so many great matches. This week, as far as the matchups go, aren't as attracting. But that Fiji, Georgia match should be a good one.
Yeah, who isn't excited about that one? Look, you mentioned it. It's almost overwhelming, but that's why I have 6 days at work so I can watch all this.
It's like March Madness for us, but it's in September. Yeah, you know what, Fitzy, let's get into it. Let's get this show going. Like I said, these two guests are waiting for us. Joining us right now from, I believe, in Cardiff, the new interim USA Women's Rugby head coach Milton Haig and USA Eagles captain and new Ealing Trail finder Kate Zackary. Hey, Kate. Hey, Milton.
Hello.
How you going, guys?
We're doing great. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for giving us your time.
Yeah, well, last week was a bit of a technical glitch trying to get on, so I apologise to
no problem.
you guys and all the listeners. So, but hey, we're here now and looking forward to chatting.
Well, I know when I spoke to Taylor with USA Rugby, she said, we'll get one of the players to help him out next time.
Yeah. And that's pretty much what's happened.
Now, Kate,
here we are now.
Yes, here we are now. Now, Kate, this is your second appearance on the show. Last time, about a year ago, last week, actually, you were sitting alongside Rob Kane. So I feel like you're our head coach interpreter.
I like to think I understand what they're saying most days, but what I hear is if you do everything with confidence, people believe you.
That's true, and we talked about earlier, be as loud as you can as well.
Yeah.
So, Kate, how you doing? It's like I said, it's been a year since we spoke.
Yeah, doing well. Been a busy season. Obviously, last time we spoke, we've now been through a World Cup. Been through my third season in the UK. Made another semifinal with Exeter Chiefs, and then have since, on top of that, personally gotten married, changed teams, and moving to London. So it's been a wild year.
Wow, that's crazy. And Milton, you've only been around the team for a week and a half now. How's that going for you so far?
No, great. I haven't done as much as Kate in the last year, that's for sure. But I mean, look, the opportunity when it came up was, certainly something that I was looking forward to. And as I said to the team last week, I wasn't sure what I was coming into, and in terms of the way we play and our movement around the field. But certainly the last 10 days has given myself and the other coaches who are on board, a lot of confidence that ultimately we can get this squad of people to a level where we think we can be really competitive with certainly the top 6 teams in the world, and that's what we really need to aspire to.
Yeah, and we definitely want to touch on that soon. I want to back up a little bit with you, Milton. You have quite the coaching and playing resume out there. Most recently coaching Japan, head coach of Georgia men's, well documented. 2 World Cup, it goes on. But do you have much experience coaching women's sides, or does that even matter?
No, none at all, none at all. And before I actually said yes to doing this, that was certainly something I was considering and thought about it long and hard. But it was really my wife and my two daughters who said, "Dad, you got to go and do it." You know what I mean? And my kids are 18. Well, not kids anymore, but they're 18 and nearly 21. And they just said, "You just have to go there and help and make them better." And just be yourself, because they went through the Georgian journey with me, and certainly the Japanese journey as well. And so they know me as a coach. They've been involved in my rugby all their life,
Hmm.
and they were confident that I could help out here. So that was really the motivating factor when they said to me, "You should go and do this." Well, I thought, okay, right, I'll go and do it. So
It sounds like what my wife told me a year or so ago. Both our daughters are about 21, out of the house, and my traveling kind of slowed down with COVID. She said, "You need to get out of the house." It sounds like what she's telling you.
that's exactly what my wife actually said. She said that about a month before I got approached by World Rugby. Says, "You need to actually get out of the house now." So yeah.
All right. So it's been 4 or 5 years since you coached Georgia. Are there any experiences or lessons from coaching that national side that you'll be able to bring into the USA program?
Oh yeah. Look, I think like I've been doing this sort of work for a long, long time. Obviously, back in New Zealand with New Zealand teams, and then obviously internationally with Georgia, and then in Japan. So through through that experience, you learn what works and what doesn't work. And it's really interesting because I've had probably about 8 months off of coaching, where I've just been trying to get my golf game right. But what's really interesting is that once you get on the field, it's pretty much the same. You know what I mean? And again, I know it's a women's team versus a men's team that I've coached before, but really the basic principles of what I'm trying to teach are exactly the same. That the actual rules of the game and the dimensions of the field don't change.
Right.
So I've kind of figured that, well, look, I'll just do what I've always done, and hopefully I can help the group improve not just their personal skills, but also our group skills on and off the field, in terms of what does high performance look like, and what do we do to have to be able to consistently repeat high performance. And so that ultimately is my goal. And so far it's been going really well, and I've just been so pleased about how welcoming the team is, and also how engaging they have been through what is a reasonably busy sort of last 10 days. Certainly that week in Ireland was there was a lot of information to take on board, because we brought some things that are different, obviously, but like I just, after a very, very heavy training week in Ireland, I was so impressed about how the girls at the back end of the team, at the back end of the week, were still up for it. You know what I mean? And that, I know it's a cliche, but that, as a coach, that's all you can ask for, really.
Yeah, Milton, I want to tap on that high performance there a little bit. Or I think you mentioned that you want to try and reconnect this current team to USA Women's Rugby's glorious past, right? Winners of a previous World Cup a few years ago. But talk about that. Why is that important to kind of reconnect, to get back to that type of glory?
Because I think it's important that all organisations, because as years pass, what tends to happen sometimes is you forget about our history. And at one stage in World Rugby, the USA Eagles were the number one team in the world, and that's how I actually remember the USA Eagles, because there's obviously a few years ago when they were the best women's team in the world. That's something that we should always try and connect back to. And I know things change, and organisations change, but I think that's something that like very few teams in the world have had, and that's something that we can use. So when you look at what made them successful, what did make them, you look back and you say, well, what made them successful? And you're thinking about, I guarantee you, it wasn't like the professional era like it is now. But I can guarantee you one thing was team spirit. The other thing is, I guarantee you they worked their butts off, and then I also think that they probably had great pride in the USA jersey. And I'm not saying we don't, but again, that's just something I think we need to reconnect ourselves with. And if we can add those things like pride in the jersey, hard work, and the ability to make really good decisions under pressure on the field, because again, that team, to be number one in the world, they would have been doing that. Again, these are the things that we want to reconnect with, implement into our systems and execution of a game plan, and then hopefully, that process takes care of some of the results, really.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about the coaching staff that you're bringing on board, John Haggard and Melody Bozeman, both big names in the world of rugby, but maybe not the most familiar names for your average American rugby fan. Both have Black Fern experience. Talk about their experience and what they will bring to the program.
Well, John Haggard and I we knew each other as players, and as we went through our coaching career, we've known each other, well, since the 80s, really. And when I heard that he could be available, I contacted him, and the first thing he said was, "Hell, I'd love to be involved." You know what I mean? Because again, he's got knowledge of this team, and he also told the same story as me. Well, they used to be the number one team in the world, so he was pretty stoked to be able to get involved and see if he could help make the team better on and off the field. And he's got not just a lot of experience in obviously coaching women's rugby, but he was a pretty good player himself, and certainly played a lot of first class games for Otago back in the day. And Mel, well, she played 2 World Cups for the Black Ferns, so that just says to you in itself that she's had longevity in the game, and to have longevity in the game, you've got to be pretty good at your position, really. So, and the fact that she also takes line out in scrums was such a plus for me, really. And again, another person who has obviously played the game and understands women's rugby. So, she came on late, but I was absolutely stoked. And as I said to her a couple of days ago, I actually think, her coming on board as part of the coaching ticket is actually made us coaches, really. It's the three of us are actually pretty close now, and we have a lot of laughs off the field, that's for sure. But we also try and make sure we're professional about what we're doing, and we can make the girls better.
Nice, Kate. From a player perspective, how has the camp been? Is it good to be back with the team? And I understand you may have a little bit of experience with Haggard and Bozeman.
Yeah, I guess the first half of the question, it's always good to be back with the group. It's good to be back in the U.S. jersey and setup. I've been in and around it with 7s and 15s, and the opportunity, you just never know when it's going to be the last. So it's always an honor every chance you get to call up. And I think a lot of the girls feel that way. We've got some new faces. We've got some newer faces who've maybe started appearing in the setup this year. And so we've got a really exciting squad. I think last week, as Milton already mentioned, it was a heavy training week, but it was a really, really positive week that we needed together. Just getting to learn the coaches, getting to obviously continue learning each other, and get a good hit out against Ireland before we take on Wales this weekend and then ship off to South Africa. So a really solid quality week. Looking ahead again, this week's been training's been really well. I think everyone's just kind of also adapting to new coaches, new systems, a little bit of new everything. But with newness comes excitement. So again, energy's high in camp. I'm just happy to be back. I'm happy that Milton has decided to keep me around as well. So that's a positive. And with John and Mel, I mean, I've seen their names. I know of who they are, but I can't say that I have directly been impacted prior to last week against them. But I think seeing the resumes once we were told about the 3 coaches, I think we've had a lot of great coaches involved in our setup in the last few years, and this is just a little bit of something different, driving the high performance standards in a different direction, asking differently of the players compared to other coaches and stuff. So again, like I said, it's a lot of new, but I think the girls are really adapting well, and I think we'll go quite well in the next few weeks.
Mm. Yeah, and speaking of new, real quick, you mentioned earlier in your intro, you moved to London. You're playing with a new team, the Trailfinders, there in the Premiership Women's Rugby. Why the move? And talk about a little bit about the team expectations this upcoming season.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I've spent the last 3 years at Exeter, moved over once they first joined the league. And it was something at the time, it was an opportunity to play rugby. It's such an unknown time with COVID. And really enjoyed my last 3 years there. I owe a lot to Susie and the Chiefs family, but also there's just a great opportunity to start something new and be a part of another new team and new generation of players at Ealing. So there's the benefit of the rugby. There's a benefit of continuing some post-career development with some coaching and things, as well as trying to bring my personal and professional life together as my partner lives in London. So for me, it was more of a holistic move, just to continue doing what I love, but also getting to do it alongside the people that I, in theory, care about and want to live with for the rest of my life. So there wasn't an ultimatum or anything, but
Any Ealing or Exeter former Exeter teammates on this Wales side you're facing this weekend?
Yeah, there'll be a couple of our Exeter teammates, Abby Fleming and Robin Wilkins. They'll both be there. Well, they're in the setup, and I imagine they'll be in the starting lineup probably.
And aiming for you. How dare you leave us?
No.
No, of course.
Well, in
not.
all fairness, one of them left as well, so we should be even keel, right?
Milton, you obviously don't have a ton of time with the team as a head coach. You know, Wales basically being your first match. Are you sticking with the game plan that Rich has been preparing, or making your own adjustments right away? Can fans maybe anticipate a new playing style?
Well, I was lucky enough, and Rich was good enough to, right at the very beginning, we touched base when I was still back in New Zealand, and we had a chat about, obviously, what he thought the strengths of the team were, and what they focused on in the Pac-4 tournament. Certainly, I've got this whole philosophy about attacking rugby. So again, I've introduced a couple of real simple systems that, in terms of our attacking shape, the team can use reasonably easily, and it's all designed really to just create opportunities with space out wide. So you will definitely see us trying to use the ball. Now, whether that's more or less than before, I'm not too sure, but certainly what I am big on is making sure that we have the skill sets and we practice our skill sets that it will enable us to be able to use the ball at width. And certainly, if you, as a reference, if you look at Georgia, what they used to be, certainly 15 years ago, they're a totally different team in terms of their ability to use the ball, and that's sort of my philosophy here as well. And again, it doesn't detract from obviously some of our strengths, because I think certainly our scrum is a real strength of ours, and we want to make sure we can keep using that. But in my opinion, if you want to be competing with the top teams in the world, we have to be able to use the ball and score points. And conversely, we also have to be able to defend against the ball a little bit better, because if you look at the key stats of the last games in the 2000s, certainly when you look at points for and against, there's about a 330 deficit. So I want to make sure that, when I look at that key stat, I went, well, we just need to be able to score more points and defend a lot better. So, I know it's a bit of a simple view on things, but really that's probably what we need to be able to do.
Milton, I want to talk a little bit about the USA player pool. Are there any? I know you've been with the team for just a few weeks here, but are there any U.S. players who've really grabbed your attention? Maybe either as like team leaders, difference makers, or just kind of some exciting new talent
in the squad.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, look, we've been surprised about just some of the raw power some of these younger players absolutely have. We've got a fantastic, sort of our midfield, obviously with Kate there, and we've got some power players at 12 that we can use, and even some of our wingers. We've been really surprised about their ability to carry and run, and so it's early days for us, and I don't certainly single anybody out. But there's a ton of talent that's here. We just need to make sure that we're pushing it towards the right direction, and we need to make sure that we can make, again, really good decisions when we're under pressure. And again, that will come, because again, these are certain things that, from a coaching group point of view, we're watching all the time about different players making different decisions, or making decisions in different conditions on the field. So, but we're really lucky that we've got Kate as a very, very experienced captain, and again, she brings a whole lot of information. And certainly, I'm lucky that we have a pretty good relationship and pretty open relationship about sharing information, my thoughts on some things, her thoughts on some things, and so I'm really lucky that she feels confident that we can talk to each other as captain and coach, really. But again, I think there's certainly a lot of talent that we've got within the team. We need to sharpen up on some of our skill sets and maybe some of our decision making. And certainly, there's a number of girls who have that power that generally don't talk a lot. So again, we're just trying to increase some of those aspects of their individual games, so that once we get into that team aspect, collectively we'll be a better team.
Mm-hmm. So Kate, I love asking this question because over the years we've seen you put on a jersey with the number 7 on it, with the number 13 on it. I mean, this weekend, no way we're going to see you in like a new number, like 2 or something, right? Like,
maybe. I mean, like Milton said, we all have to brush up on our skills, right?
You heard it here, folks. First, he's going to be playing in the front row against Wales.
Hey, that's a good surprise for them, maybe.
No, I can tell you right now, she won't be there.
Well, she is listed as World Rugby's roster announcement today lists her as a back. Is that where we'll expect to see her?
You'll have to wait until tomorrow.
I like it.
Okay, well, with that said, Milton, how important is it for you as a coach to have players like Kate who can slot in at multiple positions and play them well? Does it change how you prepare for a match?
No, not really. It's certainly a big plus for us. There's no doubt about that. Because again, what you're finding these days is if you've got people that can play a couple of positions, really, really well, then what that allows you to do is maybe change your configuration on the bench.
Yeah.
And you're seeing that now with World Cup. You know what I mean? So, the fact that Kate can play just as well as a loose forward as she can in midfield does give us a little bit of, I suppose, freedom to be a little bit more creative on our bench. I'm not saying that's what we're doing, but certainly we have discussed that as a coaching group. And it's not just Kate. There's a couple of people who have played in the backs who are now playing in the forwards, or vice versa, you know what I mean? So, as I said to the coaches this morning, we need to be creative about how we're thinking about it. And we can't just think, well, this used to be the norm. We just keep following that, because I think now these days, this Men's Rugby World Cup is showing us that you can actually be a bit more creative on your bench.
Yeah, and let's jump forward to the WXV. You have
Wait,
Wales.
Bill. Milton just said he's going to do a 7-1 split. I think that's what I'm reading.
Is that what he heard?
No. Did you not hear? There's now an 8 forwards.
Great. Yeah, that's the flexibility Kate gives you.
8 forwards or 8 backs. I guess you'll never know.
I'm confused already. All right, WXV. You have Wales this weekend to prepare for South Africa. How important is it to perform well against Wales and a victory, let's say, going into the tournament? And then what are your expectations for the team during this tournament?
Are you talking to me?
Yes, Milton.
Sorry. Kate would have definitely answered that question if you read it. So, look, the first thing is it's an official test match. The second thing is that Wales are ranked one above us in world rankings. As far as I know, they're 6th and we're 7th. Mm-hmm. So whenever you're playing somebody that's ranked above you, that's got to be some kind of motivation. You know what I mean? So I would expect that from our team. that they would be highly motivated to get one of these to knock Wales over. But I would think, and again, it's not that this game's important. It is. But what I really want to see is that we improve from last week in our head out against Ireland. I want to see our systems being worked better. I want to see our skill sets being accurate, and I want to see better decision making from that what we did against Ireland. So ultimately, these first 2 weeks were always going to be in preparation for South Africa. That's ultimately what these 2 weeks are. But again, I want to make sure that come Saturday, we are as motivated as we possibly can be to win this match, because this is a team that's ranked above us.
Right.
And I want to make sure that we can, send a message out to, the rest of the rugby world that, USA's back, baby, and we're coming for everybody. So, so again, it's I know that's a bit flippant, but the reality is that that's, we should be really motivated to put in a good performance this week.
Kate, looking ahead to the WXV competition, of late, the Women's Eagles have been on the losing side against some of the teams in the Tier 1 portion. I guess, how frustrating has that been for you? And then just how important is it for the program not to just perform well in the WXV2 competition, but to really to win out?
Yeah, it's a good question. And one, I feel like I could have many different opinions and conversations on depending on the situation. But I think, to be frank as well, just from my own personal point of view, obviously it has been a frustrating couple of years. We haven't put up the scores we like. And I think Milton nailed it on the head, though, as well. If you look at our stats, we do get into the 22 a lot, but we just can't score, right? And at the end of the day, to win a game, you have to score points. And we've been our own crux at that at sometimes. It's not always about the opposition. It's more just about our ability to finish. And so, reviewing and reflecting on the last 4 years, and looking at the back of our legacy, leading into 2017 World Cup and those who came before, we need to find our way back to greatness. We've been there. We've definitely had our slips and falls around, COVID, organizational disruption, right? USA Rugby's been ever changing in the last, 5 years to the decade. And what you see is what sometimes leads to the player outcomes, right? Because it's just a bit unstable at times, and we're finding our way back to stability as a team, as a program, and as an organization. So our goal is, to show up and do what we're good at, which is playing rugby. We've got so much talent and athletes on this field. It's just a matter of putting it all together now, representing not only, our country, but ultimately at the end of the day, ourselves. Everyone's here for a different reason. And we spoke last week, we had everyone tell us, like, why are you here? And I think what's really positive for me is everyone's aligned in the sense that they're here because they want to make themselves proud. They want to make their families proud, and they want to make their country proud. And they want to do a darn good job at that and win some games ultimately. So, I think building on the legacy and where we want to go, it's important for me to leave this squad in a couple of years' time. I can't play forever, but I want to leave this squad in a winning state, in a happy state, in a stable state. So that's what I think, starting with Wales this weekend in WXV, it's new beginnings of a new cycle, and trying to get to the next World Cup, and then trying to just continue to be better every day.
Listeners, I do appreciate you tuning in today. We have Milton Haig and Kate Zackary with us today. If you were listening in live on our live streams on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube, you can drop a question into those chats. And if you're here live on Twitter Spaces, you can actually come up here and ask a question as well. You can do so by requesting on the bottom left of your screen and get up here and ask a question. We have a few more left for these two, so if you want to jump in, let's get it in now. Milton, let's talk about player development, player scouting. I'm sure you're well aware of how big America is and the complexity of the rugby competitions with WPL, collegiate rugby sevens. Are you ready to rack up those frequent flyer miles, covering more territory in the U.S. to scout players?
Yeah, interesting. This is something that us as a coaching group, when you look at, and a few months ago when I was talking to World Rugby about USA Rugby, and they said it's such a big country, it's hard to get around and stuff like that, and I just said to them, I said, well, if you always think that the size of the country is going to be an obstacle, guess what it's going to be. So what I've always said is that it's a big country with a lot of people with a lot of opportunity. That's how I see it. Good. You know what I mean? So glass half full, I suppose. You know what I mean? Yeah. but I just think that if there's solid coordination and a program in place that's coordinated well, your talent ID should be able to produce some world-class athletes, because this is my whole point about USA Rugby, and you've got some of the best athletes in the world in every sport.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I just cannot figure out how it hasn't transitioned to rugby as much as it should have. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So again, what and with my experience of being involved in age grade rugby in New Zealand, once we ended up getting our talent ID program right and our coaching at younger age grades right, then the whole thing just took off. You know what I mean? And that was probably about 15 years, maybe a little bit, maybe more. It may be around about 2000, where we really started to do some solid work on that area in New Zealand. And then, like 2011 we won it, 2015 we won it. And it was only really because of the program that had put in those years beforehand. So I just see USA as, look, I know, and everybody has said this, that it's a sleeping giant. But the reality is that, I always talk about talent is just a waste of time if it's not activated. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think for me that if we can get certain things right in our talent ID program, if we have the ability to identify young athletes who, play other sports and can cross over and end up becoming really good good rugby players, then, the world is USA's oyster. And that's, I'm not talking just women's, I'm talking men's and women's.
So we have a question from our Facebook feed. She's obviously a sevens player. Mel wrote, there's four USA sevens players in the roster, 2 seasons, which I believe she's talking about autumn and summer. And this is why I'm assuming she's a sevens player. Do you anticipate recruiting more sevens players into the 15s mix, or is this just way too early for you to even think about yet?
Oh, look, I'm not thinking about that. I know we have a squad that's already been selected for us as coaches. I don't really see that we will change that, because again, we just don't know the program well enough to be able to say, well, that girl should be here, that girl shouldn't be. You know what I mean? Right. So we'll coach the group that we've got. I think we do have a couple of sevens players coming in for WXV, and maybe there's a couple of sevens players who are going back. But yeah, again, once we get to South Africa, we've got a group here that we're dealing with, and once we get to South Africa, there's a couple of changes, and again, we'll just we'll look forward to having that squad once we get to WXV.
Kate, on the player development side for young and up and coming players here in the U.S., maybe coming out of college or something, would you encourage those players to make the jump overseas to the Premiership Women's Rugby, or maybe stay in the U.S. with WPL, or does it kind of depend?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, for starters right now, the rugby and the university level is getting so much better, and it's great to see the coaching experience going into that, the more varsity programs popping up. And so I think the big step now is what your question is. It's a great question. It's what do they do next? We've got so many more players now going into your Ivy Leagues and your Lindenwoods, your Central Washingtons, your Queens, et cetera. There's so many more university programs, which is great. It's just, where does all that talent go now? And so it really just depends on the opportunity. The WPL right now is in a rebuild. I think if you speak to any of them, they really put their heads down. The new board members and some of their other patrons, they put their heads down. They're trying to rebuild the league up. I think they're rolling into their finals pretty soon. So they're trying to create a longer season, a more sustainable season, and a season that doesn't cost the players as much, right? And I think in a couple of years' time, that is going to be the ideal location that players are able to stay. We want to build it up in America, and we want a strong league that people want to actually come to America for. I will say for myself, though, these last few years, the opportunity has been overseas. So it's tough to say. Like I would love to be able to see our players and our future players staying in the States and growing the game. We just have a couple of years of a tough road ahead just to rebuild it and make it competitive, and then make it something that continues to be more and more desirable. And then we're able to get players who can stay in the States. It makes the pathways easier. Those players can get back to the pathways quicker for the next generation. We can have camps more frequently and things like that. So it's just about having those opportunities in the States, but in the meantime, also pursuing opportunities elsewhere, because that's where I think you also, as an individual, can find your true talent and true grit to go somewhere overseas out of your element. I think it's, again, as an older gal, going overseas for me, for instance, was an opportunity to kind of be challenged in another manner, and kind of find a whole new gear, if you will, in my game.
Mm-hmm. I guess, Milton, to take it to New Zealand, what do the Black Ferns do so well that you can take and apply here in the U.S.? You know, is it the strength of the domestic professional league, Super Rugby Opiki, with 4 teams pretty much having all Black Fern qualified players?
Well, I suppose the difference being New Zealand compared to the US is that the game of rugby is New Zealand's national game. So, it used to be, there was an old saying that if you're a boy, as soon as you came out of your mother's womb, you got a rugby ball. You know what I mean? But what we're finding now in New Zealand, that the game's taken off so much in the girls and women's space that that adage or that saying could be absolutely applied to girls and women. So I think one of the things that we could apply is the fact that the game in New Zealand is based around attacking skill, and being able to move around the pitch really, really quickly, and then also obviously decisions under pressure, making good decisions under pressure. So, again, that's not something that would be unknown in the US, but again, it will come back to just the implementation of the plan, and then obviously the coaching at certain levels, because that is actually absolutely the key. So having good coaches at a young age will make a difference to players once they get to 18, 19, 20. And it's how we implement a strategy like that, which will actually reap benefits in the future.
Yeah, okay, one more question for both of you, and we'll let you get back to what you're doing. Kate, which PWR team are you looking forward to playing the most this season?
That's a good question. To be fair, though, actually, I look forward to playing Exeter again.
Yeah.
Home or away. It's a good squad, a lot of good friendships that I hope will last a lifetime, as long as they don't hate me too much for leaving. But I look forward to getting a chance to play against them, though. Like I said, it's actually kind of fun sometimes to play against people you know better. It makes the game, I feel like, it takes the energy up in the game that much more, but it also means after game celebrations and chats are even better. It's the community feel, I think, for sure.
Yeah, 100%. And then, Milton, here's our tough question for you of the day, okay? What does your future look like? Are you helping out with USA until they bring in a long-term coach, or is this a position you'd put your name in the hat for if offered?
I think that process has already sailed, really. You know what I mean? Look, when I was approached to do this, they said, "Look, it's a 7-week gig. Would you be available?" Originally, I was asked to be part of just a coach support, really, and then a week later, they rang me and said, "Actually, we now need you to coach it." So, look, in the long run, I'm not the decision maker on those sorts of things. I'm really happy to be involved here at the moment. I'm excited. I'm really, really enjoying myself. And the reality is that World Rugby have already asked me if I'd continue to be involved, and I said, "Yep, absolutely. If I'm available, certainly I'd love to keep being involved, because now I've got a relationship with the team. They're good fun to work with. They work hard on the field. We have lots of fun off the field. And then, when you build a relationship and you enjoy the environment that you're in, it's pretty easy to make a decision to come and help again. Easy.
100%. And speaking of off the field, for our thousands of listeners in Cardiff, where can they find the team tonight?
They can probably find it in Colwyn Bay, so that's about 300 miles north of Cardiff.
Oh, well, there you go. I guess our research is off a little bit.
Yeah. So the game will be in Colwyn Bay, North Wales, at I think it's at the Park Stadium. I think PARC, capital PARC. So so I think the locals have really taken us in too. It's been quite cool just walking down the streets and stuff like that. And we've had some pretty good conversations. So we've got heaps of support, but obviously they're Welsh, so they'll be supporting Welsh. But if we've got some USA supporters coming this way, please call in and give us a cheer. We'll look after you afterwards. That's for sure.
All right. Well, you heard it, Cardiff. Get on a bus, the train. All right. Listen, Kate, Milton, thank you so much for giving us your valuable time. Good luck this weekend against Wales, and great luck down in South Africa.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having us, and thanks everyone for tuning in. We appreciate it.
Cheers, guys.
Of course. Thank you. We'll talk again soon. Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Fitzy, another good one, man. I don't know. These guests get better and better. A couple of things stood out to me, which I loved. For me personally, I really liked a little bit of attitude from Milton. I mean, I know he was joking around a bit about, USA Rugby is back, baby. But what were your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's what you have to say. But I believe that he believes it too. Like I think he understands, what. The greatness that was achieved in the past, and not that this team can't reach those levels again, but maybe there's been some underperformance, and excited for just the chatter of getting back into that top 1, 2, or 3. I think that's what we all want. So I'm guns blazing, and that's just not because I've got caffeine coursing through my veins after 3 cups.
Yes. I am too. I'm pumped. I'm excited to watch these matches too. Have you heard of the Wales match? Is that on TV? Is that being covered by Rugby Pass or somebody?
Yeah. Where did I see that? Actually, I think it may be getting streamed. I've got it right in front of me. Give me a moment here, Bill.
All right. We'll stand by, everybody.
Let's stand by. All matches live on the Wales match. No, WXV2. All matches live on Rugby Pass. So TBD on the Wales thing, but I'd imagine that you hear. Stay tuned to USA Rugby social channels, and we may have some streaming details.
Nice. All right, that's it.
Yeah.
Fitz, a good one today. Good work. We will all chat again next week. For those of you listening in still right now, check out the podcast replay of the show, possibly later today or tomorrow by the latest. And for all those of you tuning in online on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, thanks again, and we'll chat again soon. Good day, everybody.